show you how to make a necklace with some of the beads in the Summer Bling Fling treasure bag. However, you do not have to have the treasure bag to do this, and you do not even have to have these beads. The process or the technique is something that you can use with lots of different beads, and I've shown you two different techniques here. Now, with the treasure bag stuff, I went ahead and did it in both colors, so you can see whether you got the blue bag or the predominantly blue bag. It does have some strands of purple in it, but the predominantly blue bag or the predominantly purple bag, this is what it will look like for you. And I've done this on beading chain, and I show you how to end it and do all that. Now this one is some of the beads. I am just now getting my stock of these in, so I will be putting more on my website. I have a few on there now, but I'll be putting more colors on as soon as possible, getting them up. And this I went ahead and did by stringing. Instead of using beading chain, I used bead stringing wire, and then I used the chain in the treasure box on the back. So if you want some of these beads and you don't want to do it with the beading wire, or you do want beading wire or whatever, you have choices that you can make with this. But it turns out really pretty. I want to show you just how pretty the beading chain looks too. It's nice and slinky and flexible, and this is what it looks like, and it looks just absolutely gorgeous on the neck. It's very, very pretty. Let me show you the indigo one. This is what this looks like, and of course when you wear it, it lays out like that, and it's just so pretty. Anyway, let's get you a close-up so you can see a little better. There we go. And then this one, and then we also have this option. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, for this project, I'm going to show you two alternative methods to achieve basically the same look. We're going to use either beading chain or some beading wire. Now, I have cut about 20 inches at the 0.06 beading chain, and I have this on my website if you would like some. And I have also cut about the same amount, though we'll use less with this because we'll do, on this method, the back of the necklace a little differently. But I've cut about the same amount of Beadalon 7, and I'm using this instead of Soft Flex because I don't have Soft Flex in a golden color. This is satin gold, and it's Beadalon 7. So I'm going to be using that. You'll be using some crimp beads for either method. So you're going to need some Beadalon size 2. I'm using the gold tone, just like this, and I recommend Beadalon. They work the best, but you can use what you have in your stash. And then we're going to be using, in the treasure bag, you got 5 of these flat bicones, and you got them in either indigo or purple. I've already made one with indigo, so for my demonstration, I'm going to use the purple. We're also going to use the 3x4 bicone, or excuse me, 3x4 rondelles that came in the bag. You'll either have indigo or purple, and I am, of course, for this demonstration, using the purple. Then we're going to be adding to the treasure bag some head pins. So just regular head pins. I'm using gold tone head pin. Some 8/0 seed beads. This is a Toho Starlight. It's the permanent finish, galvanized permanent finish Starlight in the Toho line. And then we're also going to be using from the treasure bag some of the jump rings that came in your treasure bag. This is a 7mm round jump ring, 6mm internally. 6 or 7mm jump rings will work just fine if you don't have the treasure bag. Adding to the treasure bag, I'm going to use some of these little tiny jump rings, and these are like a 3mm round. You could use a 3 or 4mm round. You need something pretty small so that when you put your components on your beading chain, they will lay right. They will stay in place. And you're going to need 3 of those. We are also going to be using a clasp. So if you're going to do the method with the beading wire, you'll be using some of the chain from the treasure box or whatever chain you would like, and one of your clasps. If you are doing the method with the beading chain, you need some kind of ending. I'm going to use one of these little ends. It's a little crimp end. It has an extender and a lobster claw clasp on it. And I do have some of these on the website. I do not have a lot. They will sell out quickly. But I have a big order coming. I've just been waiting a very long time for it. But it is coming. And there are some other crimp tubes for beading chain ends on there also, but they're all in the silver tone. So you could use this in silver beading wire and the silver ends. Watch Beading Chain 101. That is a video that I made a few months back that will help you figure out how to do different ends for beading chain if you like this beading chain method. And that will help you, and then you'll know what to buy. And I do have some ends on the website if you'd like to check it out. And again, I don't have that many colors. I do have several different types I've been kind of experimenting with. And I've decided I like them, so I have a bunch on order in different colors. All the different types that you see on there. So that is basically what we're going to be using. Let's see if I missed anything. I don't think so. So these flat bicones, I just got a big order in. I'm going to show you the alternative method with another color. This is Rosaline, however you pronounce it. And I'm going to be showing you that with some 4x4 cuboids, just because I think these colors go nice together. So you can check out the website. I haven't got all the colors listed yet. I just have a few, but I will get all of them listed. You can check out the website and get some of these bicones if you'd like, and I'll post a link below. Anyway, let's get started on this project. Okay, we're going to start this project by making our little components first. Let me get you in a little closer. So you're going to need one of your crystals, no matter what color it is, whether you're doing the indigo or the purple, doesn't matter, and a head pin. And then you're going to put an 8/0 seed bead on the head pin, and then drop down your bicone, and then pick up 2 8/0 seed beads. And this is going to protect your bicone when you do your wire wrapping here. So we're just going to wrap a simple wrapped unit here. So this, like I said, is a really hard wire. My head pins are really hard, so just kind of bear with me. I am going to place my round nose pliers onto the head pin just a little ways back. Just do it the size that you want of a loop. You don't want a huge loop on this, but you don't want it incredibly small either. So I'm just going a little ways back, and then I'm going to bend that wire over the back prong of my pliers as I hold them parallel flat to my beading mat. Then I'm going to turn my wrist so that now my pliers are vertical, and I'm going to bring this wire, this extra piece, over the top, and as I do that, I'm going to turn my wrist parallel to the beading mat again and bring that wire underneath the prong of the round nose pliers, and you get something that looks like this. Now this is a really hard wire, so I'm going to straighten it out and reduce it a little here and grab my chain nose and straighten it up. This is a really hard wire to work with. So now I'm holding my loop in my chain nose pliers and making sure that this extra piece of wire is at the same angle as the pliers. So I'm holding my wrist, or holding my pliers vertical to the bead mat, and my wire is parallel to the beading pliers. Now I'm going to try to turn this with my fingers. I'm just going to turn it like 3 times, or as far as I can turn it. Just like that. And there is my wrap. Now I need to cut this. Let's see if I can wrap that back here one more time. No, it hurts my fingers. Let's see if I grab. You can use your pliers, of course, to wrap. You don't have to do it the way I'm doing it, especially with this really hard wire, but for some reason, that's the way I want to do it. I'm going to straighten out my loop a little bit, and then I'm going to cut this extra piece off the best I can, as close as I can, and then I'm going to tuck it in. Try not to break your little seed bead there. And this is such a hard wire. Okay, let me grab my other pliers. Of course, they're not here. Yes, they are. I see them. So I'm going to use my little needle nose plier things here and get that tucked in. It's always good to have a couple pairs of pliers that work for different jobs for you. And these little ones tuck in the extra wire really nicely. So there you have it. There is your component. And you're going to do that 3 times. So go ahead and make 2 more, and then we'll continue. Okay, so you should have 3 components just like this now. Now I've gone ahead and made my components for the other piece I'm making too with the beading wire, and this is what they will end up looking like. So let's go ahead and put some jump rings on these. So the middle one, we're going to put 3 big jump rings and 1 little one. And the 2 others, we're going to put 2 jump rings and 1 little one. So my little ones are a little bit heavier gauge, and they're a stronger, small jump ring, just to make sure that they're going to stay intact and hold my components very nicely on the beading chain or the beading wire. So let's move these 3 aside. We're going to begin with the middle one, and then we can do the 2 others off camera. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab one of our jump rings, and these are the ones that came in the bag. This one seems to be kind of rose goldish. Let me get a different one. So we're going to just grab a hold of it with our pliers here, and then find where the opening is, and then just open it by twisting it, just like that. And we're going to slide it on. And then I'm just going to slide another one on too, and I'll have to tighten both closings. Now I'm going to twist this closed. Make sure that you have a very nice tight closure, and then I'm going to make sure this one is tightly closed. Looks pretty good there. And then I'm going to grab another one and open it. I'm just going to set it down here, and I'm going to grab my small one and make sure it's closed nice and tightly, so you can just open it and then close it, kind of shimmy it to work harden it just a little bit, and just make sure especially that your small ones are closed pretty tightly. Then I'm just going to drop the small one on the big one, and then I'm going to drop the big one on the other big ones on the component here. And then just close it and shimmy it, and that's what that looks like. Now we're going to do the same thing with these 2 components. However, we're just going to use 2 of the bigger jump rings. So go ahead and put your 2 jump rings on, and your 2 big ones, and then your little one on both of these components, and we'll be right back. So now that I have put all my jump rings on my little components, we're going to string them onto the beading chain in this order. Just wanted you to see it in advance, just so you can see basically what it's going to look like. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our beading chain, and we're going to pick up the component that has the 3 large jump rings on it, and we're going to feed it onto the beading chain through the small jump ring on top of those 3 large ones. And then we're just going to center our chain the best we can. It's going to move around. Just kind of center it by putting the ends together. And then we're going to begin, let's do this. Let's get you in closer. We're going to begin putting on the beads. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead on either side of the chain. And this is going to kind of serve as the stopper on the either side of that small jump ring. So you want to make sure you have a small enough jump ring to where that's going to work. And now that I have 2 on either side, I'm going to go ahead and pick up a rondelle. And then I'm going to, you can stiffen these ends with super glue if you want, but these beads are big enough. I didn't really feel like I needed to stiffen the ends to pick up my beads. So rondelle, and then another 8-0, and we're going to do that on both sides. Got some kind of little piece of lint. So I'll pick up a rondelle on this side now. And I will pick up an 8-0. Center my chain again. It's going to keep messing up. It's not really all that important at the moment, but then I'm going to pick up my components and feed them through the small jump ring on either side here. So that's what that looks like. Now I am going to pick up another 8-0 seed bead and a rondelle and an 8-0 seed bead. Actually, did I do two? No, I did two on this side. So two 8-0 seed beads on this side. Okay. And then the same thing on this side. Pick up an 8-0, a rondelle, I'm sorry this is boring, guys. I know, but I just want to get it past the point to where I can do it off camera, but you know, okay, get on there, you little turkey. And then two 8-0s. It might help to stiffen up the chain a little bit, but I didn't. There we go. So now I have my rondelle and my two 8-0s here, and then I'm going to pick up a rondelle. I'm just going to do one side so you can see what to do, and then we'll do the other side off camera. So I'm going to pick up one rondelle, two more 8-0 seed beads, and then a rondelle, and one of your bicones that you didn't put any wire through, you didn't make a component out of. You should have two left, so pick up one of those, and then a rondelle, and then three 8-0 seed beads, a rondelle, and then three more 8-0 seed beads. And then we'll go off camera and we'll do the other side. We'll come back, center it, crimp it into place, and then put our end on. And I will also show you at that point how to do the other necklace. Okay. So here I'm going to go ahead and drop on my little crimp tube also, and I'm just going to leave it there. So once you finish this, put on your little crimp tube, do the other side exactly the same way, fingerprints on my crystal, and we'll be back. Okay, so I finished stringing my necklace, put on this side and put on my crimp tube, and then I strung onto the beading wire exactly the same way my other set of beads. Now I used little cuboids on this one, and get you close, and this is what this looks like too. I strung it exactly the same way, just using a little bit different bead. So you can see how you can alternate beads for this also. Then for this one, I have cut two 6-inch pieces of chain. Now, because I cut so much wire, I could just go ahead and keep beading my 8-0 seed beads and my cuboids up to the end and put my clasps on the end also. You can do that also on your beading wire. It looks pretty, and I bet that would turn out just fine also. But I'm going to go ahead and connect chain on this one, but we'll do that in a minute. I'm going to show you how to finish this one first. Now, you're going to want to make sure that you put your two ends together on the top here of your chain and center this very well. Now I'm going to cut my chain down a little bit. I don't want quite that much length, but at this point I just want to make sure that my centerpiece is completely centered, and then I'm going to grab my crimping tool. Now it can move around a little bit on that side, but you want to make sure that this side stays where you want it so that it's still centered. And in the second divot on my crimp tool, so let me get you close so you can see, on this second divot, if I close it, you can see it's kind of crinkly on one side and it has a half moon shape on that side. I'm going to slide that right onto this crimp tube, right centered in that divot there. I'm going to leave my necklace laying on the bead pad, and then I'm going to squeeze. And then, now that that's stabilized, I'll do the other side also. I'll just go underneath it. I'm going to push on these beads a little bit because I want the beads to be somewhat tight to hold my components in place. So I'm going to push down on the beads just a little bit. Don't make it incredibly tight or your necklace will be stiff. But make sure there's no slack, and then just squeeze. Now I've got these two stabilized, and make sure that I got a good crimp, and I did. So now I can pick this up and I can show you maybe that this is squeezed down on the wire like this. Then I'm going to take my plier or my crimp tool, and in this first divot right here, the one closest to the tip of the tool, I'm going to place that crimp tube sideways in here, making sure, if you can see that, let me get even closer, making sure that the tubes that were created when I squeezed that down, first of all, are touching the sides of my crimping tool the best they can, and then I'm going to squeeze again, making this round. Now, because I want this to stay really well on my chain, I'm going to crimp it a couple of times in that first divot and just kind of reduce and tighten that crimp bead. Just do it gently and carefully, just kind of turning your crimp tool and just really getting that crimp bead nice and tight on there. And you can see now I have a nice crimp around that. It's going to stabilize my necklace, keep everything in the center. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'll just find where my crease is, position that crimp tube in there sideways so that the two little loop or the two little tubes in the crimp tube are centered in on either side. They're touching my crimp tool, and then I just squeeze. You can see how that folds that over, and then I'm just going to squeeze a couple of times and reduce and tighten and shape that little crimp bead onto the beading wire, just like that. And now I have a stable necklace, and it's not going to go, my centerpiece isn't going to slide all over the place. It's going to hold my components right where I want them because it's tightened the seed beads against those, or yeah, the seed beads against the jump rings. So now I have a nice little component there. And now I'm just going to put my wires together, figure out how long I want my necklace, because I have a little extender on my ends here. I'm going to put this on here, and I'll focus it in so you can see it in just a second. So I'm going to make sure that it's centered here. I'm going to put the chain in the divot, the very last divot, the outside divot here. And we can see that I'm going to have like a very long necklace. On the ends here, you can see it's going to be like 22 inches. I cut way too much beading wire. So I want it to be about 18 inches. So I'm going to cut one side at the 9 here. Pick this up and measure it. And I'm going to cut this at the 9. And then I can take this off of here, put my wires together, or my beading chain together, and cut the other side. So now I can just lay this out, making sure that it looks very even on both sides down here. And then I'll just cut this one the same length, just like that. And now I'm going to have about an 18-inch necklace. This little end has an extender on it. Now, like I said, I don't have a ton of these in my shop. I did buy a couple packages, but I didn't get a great big amount of them yet. I have them on order. I ordered a whole bunch of them. But I do know that if you really want some of these, that Shirley at budgetbeads.shop has some of these also. So you could always go to her website and get some too. So what we're going to do, and like I said, watch Beading Chain 101. There are other methods to do this too. So watch that video and that will help you. And that's on my beginner's channel, of course. So let's bring this down. Now, I'm going to put the end with the lobster claw. It doesn't really matter which side I put it on because of the fact that this necklace is double-sided. I mean, it's going to look the same from either side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this little tube and I'm going to place it in my crimping tool. I think I'll place it this way so you can see. I'm going to place it in here at the very end of the tube. And I'm going to make it flush or even a little recessed into my crimping tool so that I get a nice crimp on the end here. I'm going to take my beading chain, I'm going to put it inside that tube, make sure that I feel it touch the top of the tube, and then I'm going to squeeze. And now, I'll get you real close again. You can see that I have it crimped down onto the beading chain. Now, if you can center it over to one side a little bit and get it inside one of the tubes, that helps a lot. I was always trying to just center it completely, but if you get it over to one side, it actually holds it a little tighter. Then I'm going to take the first divot on my crimping tool again, just like I did earlier with the crimping tubes, and I'm going to place those tubes sideways, see? And of course, again, I want it to be right at the end of my crimping tool or even a tiny bit recessed, and then I'm going to squeeze. And now I have a perfect little crimp on that wire. It's nice and sturdy. It's not going to come off, and that's how you do that. And we'll do the exact same thing with the other side. So we'll pick up this little tube, put it in the tool, flush or a little recessed, stick your beading wire in there. I'm doing it a little further away now so you can see everything, and I'm going to squeeze. And now I have a nice crimp down onto that chain, and I am going to place the tube sideways in the first divot now and squeeze again. And this one isn't quite as pretty as the other one, but it's still good. And I can always shape it up a little bit in that first divot, and that looks good. So now my necklace is finished. I am going to, on the end of this extender, I'm going to put one of my bigger jump rings just to finish it off and to make a easy access for someone who wants to wear it longer. Otherwise, you could just clasp into this jump ring here, and of course if you wanted that to be bigger, you can take that off and put a bigger one on. You can take the extender off and just put a big jump ring, whatever you want to do. It doesn't truly matter. I've got to find my chain nose pliers. I think I buried them under my bead board here, and then I'm just going to close this. And now my necklace is completely finished, and it turned out really pretty. So you've got that color, and we've got the indigo here, which also turned out just gorgeous, just like that. And now we're going to finish up the one with the beading wire here. So like I said, you could go ahead and finish just beading this up to the ends and then put on some clasps with your crimp tubes. But I've dropped 2 crimp tubes on either side already here. I'm going to cut my wire down because I have way too much. I'm going to leave myself a few inches on either side to work with and cut it down here. And then I am going to grab a piece of chain. I've cut 2 pieces of 6-inch chain, and you can of course adjust your length with your chain here however much you want. Just make sure they're exactly the same length on either side. I've made sure that I've ended on the large link because this is a Figaro. It has little links and big links. I've ended on the large link so it's easier. Now this side wants to move, so I'm going to take a little clip and then I'm going to clip it. These don't hold this little tiny wire very well, but I'm going to try to clip it a little bit so that I can work with this side without losing all my beads. Now, let me get you close. Alright, so now I have slid my chain down onto my wire. Make sure your chain links are closed very well, and then just slide the beading chain through the crimp tube. You can also go through one of the 8 seed beads if you'd like. Pull this down. Pull it down rather small, like this. Little loop. You want it to be able to move, but you don't want a huge loop there. And then I am going to grab, making sure that my wire isn't too crossed in there, I'm going to grab my crimping tool, and then I'm going to crimp in the second divot, just like I've been doing. Then I'm going to turn this sideways. And my beads are moving around because the other side isn't secure, and that's okay. But you can see I have a crimp here now. I have encased both wires in those little tubes that are formed when you squeeze down on it. Then I'm going to go sideways and my crimping tool in the first divot and squeeze again. And now I have this side crimped, and while the beads are apart here, I think I'm just going to pull those beads down, pull this extra wire out. I don't think I want to go through that 8/0. I think I'm going to pull that out because I think it's going to distort my beads. So let's see if I can get it out of here. Oh, this shouldn't be this hard. Come on. Come out, you little turkey butt. There we go. Now we're going to take that out. I'm going to just cut this down really short next to my crimp tube, and then I can squish this all over like this. And now that's what that looks like. Let me get, I don't even know if I was in camera, but that's what that looks like there. Just cut that wire down. Now on this side I have to make sure that I don't get a bunch of slack because I need this to be tight to hold everything together. So I'm going to grab my chain again, put it on my wire, then I'm going to put it down my crimp tube. This time I'm not going to go down that 8/0, I don't think. See if I can do this and get it tight without it. Okay. So I'm going to hold on to the stable side of the wire, and I've got this crossed, so I'm going to bring this back over. If you go straight down into your crimp tube, let's do that again. Let's go straight down into this crimp tube and avoid the seed beads. That way, now I can hold on to the stable side, pull this side, keep my beads together nice and tight, making sure that there's no slack. Make this loop about the same size as this loop. Smaller, so let's go smaller. Just continue pulling it down till you get it about right. And then, once you're all positioned, grab your crimping tool. And I'll get you close for the moment. And then, I'm just going to crimp. And then squeeze it shut with the first divot, just like we've been doing all along. Make sure you have a nice tight crimp, and then cut it off. And I did get that pretty tight. It's kind of stiff, but I think I should be able to get a little bit of movement. It would be better with some soft flex, really. I would get a little bit more flexibility, but it's not bad. Let me show you. And so that's what that looks like. And then if you want to deal with all that, just beat it all the way up and then put your crimp tubes on with your clasp. The same way I showed you here, but just loop it through your clasp instead of your chain. Then I'm just going to grab 2 more of these little small jump rings, and I'm going to open one up and put on my clasping on the end of this. And now you will have 2 methods, so you don't have to run out and buy a bunch of stuff. If you don't want to, you can do it this way. Or now I've just put my jump ring on, and you can see, just open it up and close it just like I showed you earlier. Put on your clasp, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. And again, it doesn't matter which side you put them on because it's a double-sided necklace, so it looks the same either way. And then I'll hook this one up. Because I have 2 colors of gold here, my jump rings are 1 color gold, my 8O seed beads are a brighter gold, my clasp is a brighter gold like the 8O, but this color blends in well with this color, and this color blends in well with this color, so it kind of worked out fine because I did use 2 tones here. So now I have a really pretty necklace. Let me lay all 3 of them out so you can see what they look like. Actually, that looks pretty darn nice, even though it's a little bit more, it's not quite as flexible as the beading chain, but it looks pretty darn nice. And quit tangling up you. And I'm satisfied with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I'll put it on, make sure I like the way it looks. And my chain may be a little bit too long. Let's see how long this turned out. Because I just guessed with my measurement of my chain, but I can always take a couple links off and put my clasp back on if it's too long. I like a necklace like this to be 18 inches because then it hangs down. It's not way down on my chest. The dangles are nice in my neckline, and this is right at 18 inches, as you can see. So we're good. All right, so let me lay this out, show you what they all look like, clean up my bead mat a little, and I'll be right back. And there you have it. They're really pretty. I love the way this beading chain looks with it. It looks so elegant. But this is no slouch either. It looks pretty nice. And I put it on and it looks really nice on the neck. It works out just fine. So either way that you do it, or even just beading all the way to the end, this is going to turn out really pretty, and I think you're going to like it. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.